Despite what everyone says, it's not that hard to get consistent in studying. You just need some tactics that will help you make it easy for yourself. Make it easy so you basically automatically do it, right? So here are the 3 things which have helped me the most. But first off, who am I, right? I'm Richard and I've graduated high school 1 year early with these kinds of grades in my A-levels. I wish I knew these 3 tactics and I wish I implemented these more during my high school years. So the 3 tactics are scheduling, removing distractions, or also making it really important to you, basically setting a goal for it, right? Like, I want to ask you this question, right? If you tell yourself, I'm going to study tomorrow, right? What time are you going to study? What time are you going to study? If you don't know what exactly you're going to study, what time you're going to study, if you don't schedule that and time block it, right? Well, the thing is, right, that's just a vague idea. That is a vague idea. That's not a plan. That's a vague idea. You think, I'm going to study after I go home from school. You have this idea that you're going to study tomorrow. You're going to study tomorrow. Oh yeah, I'm going to study tomorrow. But there's no actual plan. So when it comes to time that you actually think, maybe I should study, right? You don't have a plan, so you don't do it, right? You start to think, what time should I study? Or what should I study? What questions should I study, right? All these little things, and all this little friction, right? All this little bit of friction that is stopping you, right? So, because you have to clean your desk, you haven't prepared your environment at all. And, you have to find and dig up the questions from your textbook, for example, right? Instead of planning all of that earlier, you do it now. And then it feels so hard, right? There's so much friction involved. And it feels so hard. So what do you automatically do? Usually a lot of our automatic responses is to do this, right? Grabbing your phone, right? Grabbing your phone, right? A lot of us have this automatic response to grab our phone whenever we basically feel a little bit bored, right? Or we feel a bit of emotional friction. And so we just do the easiest task possible, right? This is the easiest task possible. Go on scrolling on your phone, right? This is what so many of us do, right? A lot of it is because of the fact that we don't create these plans, right? We don't create routines. We don't have a proper routine for ourselves. You want to be scheduling your days and preparing your day so that you have as little uncertainty and as little friction as possible, right? Instead of trying to think, what time should I study? When should I study? What should I study, right? You're wasting your brain power on all these little micro decisions that do stack up, that do waste a lot of your brain power. What if you saved that brain power and you just did it, right? You focused it on the actual question itself, right? You set up the environment, you set up the time, and you just did it. You just put all of your brain energy, instead of thinking about when to do it, you put your brain energy into doing the physics paper, right? That'll mean that you'll actually study more effectively, right? But also you'll be less tired because you don't have to make all these stupid little decisions, right? So what's the action step for this, right? The action step for this is to actually just go on your Google Calendar and write out some schedules, right? Write out what you want to do tomorrow. What time do you want to wake up? What time do you want to go to bed? What time do you want to start studying, right? For example, do you want to study an hour a day, which is honestly usually enough, right? If you want to study an hour a day, right? That's great, but then what time do you want to study it? And if you start to do it and make it more consistent, you can start to create a routine, right? A routine which you just automatically slip into, right? Especially if you're in school, right? Every single day, you usually end the day at the same time. You've probably already created a routine right now, but most of that routine involves, going on your phone, right? Or playing some video games, right? If you changed up that routine and started to create a routine that you try and stick to, that you try and follow as best as possible, then slowly but surely you'll become better and better, and that routine will start to ingrain itself inside of you, right? You just stare at your fucking calendar. You stare at that routine that you want to do, that your ideal routine, and you start to internalize it. At 5 p.m. I'm going to come home and I'm going to study this paper. At 6 o'clock I'm going to eat dinner. At 7 o'clock I might, maybe I'll unwind and read some books, for example. Something like that, right? Something like that where you create some structure within your life. Create some structure so that you automatically do it, right? Because, humans are creatures of habit, right? So your brain wants to reduce as much like thinking as possible. Your brain doesn't want to waste resources, thinking about all this bullshit, right? And so you've created habits, unintentionally. What if we could intentionally create these habits, using some principles from Atomic Habits? We create these routines, we create some routines, and we try and stick with them. Creating routines is incredibly important, especially in terms of scheduling your free time. Because, like I said before, if you don't really have a thing to do, you don't have an idea of what you're going to be doing, right? If you have a bunch of uncertainty, what are you going to default to? This is what you're going to default to your phone, right? This is what most people do, and they waste hours of their lives, and then they waste their entire, they waste their childhoods basically watching like shitty, stupid YouTube videos, or they waste their lives not going outside or being with their friends or anything, right? Like, schedule in something good, right? Schedule in something better, schedule in something so that you spend less time on your phone. Schedule in something else that you can do instead of like wasting time on your phone or wasting time on watching some pointless videos, right? Maybe watch an actually good video. Maybe watch a documentary, for example. I don't know, something like that, right? Something they can do just to create some structure, just to plan your days a bit better and actually live your day with more intention as well, so that you don't just get caught up in this like doom scrolling loop, right? Because that's good for nobody, right? And so tying into scheduling, we come to removing distractions, right? The second one, removing distractions. So once you created some of that routine, right? You created that routine, you think tomorrow at 7 o'clock or maybe tomorrow at 6:30, I am going to wake up and I am going to study for 1 hour, right? Let's say that is your plan, or maybe after you come home at 5 o'clock, you're going to study, right? What you should do is you should prepare your environments. You should prepare your environment to the best ability that you can, right? So fucking clean up your desk. Before you do that, right? Like, so for example, tomorrow you're going to study in the morning. So the night before, what should you be doing? You should prepare your environment for that, right? You should prepare your environment in order to facilitate that habit, that study, right? So print out the test paper, download the test paper, right? And clean up your desk so that you don't have anything distracting. Put your phone in another room so that you don't use it, right? Turn off your fucking notifications, right? All these little things that do add up, that you might think they don't really matter, right? They don't matter, especially these notification things, which a lot of people, they seem to still kind of justify, I need to check my notifications and that kind of stuff. But every time you check your notifications, it's been scientifically proven that it affects you for the next 15 minutes because of the fact that you're always constantly task switching. So you want to remove distractions to actually make it so that the only thing you can do is focus on the studying, right? We want to make it easy for you to study, right? Easy to do it, that you automatically do it, right? And so if you have all these distractions, you're going to think about these distractions, right? So clean up your desk. Create a quiet environment. Put on some headphones, for example, right? Put on some headphones, for example, and just like turn your computer onto flight mode even, actually. If you probably don't even need the internet for a lot of these, right? For a lot of these. You could just look at the textbook, right? Turn off your internet so you can remove all these distractions. So just to expand on that point about waking up early and doing that, right? I would recommend that the most, honestly. That would be something that I really definitely recommend. Where, you focus on, maybe you wake up a little bit earlier than you normally would. But you just do an hour extra of focused work where you only work on the task at hand, right? So first off, you'll be fasted, so your brain will work better. And it'll be in the early morning where nobody's there to distract you as well. Your brain will be fresh, especially if you slept well and a bit earlier last night, right? And so your brain will be fresh. And so you'll be able to focus so much better and you'll get into that flow state so much easier. This tactic is called Eat the Frog, right? This tactic is called Eat the Frog, where you focus on the most important task, like you're studying, for example. You do that in the first thing in the morning. Right after you've woken up, you do that. That's the main thing that you do. So the third big thing, which has made studying so much easier for me, and actually allowed me to honestly become intrinsically motivated to study, right? Like I just automatically do it, right? One thing that's really big is to make it really important for you, right? Actually make it really important for you. For example, you studying for this exam really aligns with your goals, right? And so you can think about some of your goals. What do you want in life? Or I hope you do have some goals, right? I actually hope you do. But if you think about some of your goals, some of what you might want to personally achieve, right? Or what you're interested in, for example. If you have these exams or your grades as part of it, then naturally you're going to put more effort into these exams, right? For example, for me, like I remember, I was still a bit of a dumbass back in year 12 when I was doing my A-levels, right? But still, I still managed to study really hard because of the fact that it was really important to me, right? And you have a bit of a reputation where I'm like a pretty smart guy, and I get high grades and that kind of stuff. But that's part of it, right? But also simply it was really important to me to achieve it for my future goals, for getting into this university, for example. Like I wanted to go to the University of Sydney and study this kind of really prestigious program, right? And that's what I wanted. So I studied really hard because that program required me to get good grades, right? So I wanted to do that. I remember because I was obsessing over this goal, that would lead me to study more, right? That would lead me to actually enjoy studying more because it's aligned with my goals, right? My big goal, right? Let's say even your purpose, right? That's what you could call your big goal. So an action step for this is to actually set yourself some goals, right? Maybe it's a dream career, maybe it's a dream university, maybe it's a dream, something like that. Some big cause that you find are very important, right? Some big problem that you want to work on, right? Maybe you're very passionate about marine ecology, for example. Something like that, right? Creating a big goal that you want to strive for is really, really good for you, right? Maybe you want to be a marine ecologist, or maybe you want to do cancer research, or maybe you just want to get into the best uni in your country or go to Harvard or some shit like that, right? Something like that having that goal, even if you don't achieve it, right? Even if you don't achieve it, will still be incredibly good, right? I didn't actually end up going to the University of Sydney. Because of other reasons, right? But thank God I had that goal, right? Because it allowed me to strive for more, right? It allowed me to focus on working really hard, and thanks to that goal, I worked way harder than I would have, right? So set yourself some goals, right? Write down what do I want to achieve, like a big goal that you want to achieve, and just focus on like one or two of them. And if they don't involve your grades, right? If they actually don't, that's perfectly fine. That's honestly perfectly fine, right? Like once you create some of these goals, you should become genuinely more interested in it, right? So I remember back then, actually even before back then, right? I wanted to study physics in my university, right? In university, I actually wanted to study physics because I thought it was really, really interesting, right? I was watching all these like Veritasium videos, all these videos that are about science and all those kind of things, and that's what I grew up watching, right? And that watching of videos and watching like Kurzgesagt and Veritasium and that kind of stuff, right? Those kind of videos, they made me so much more interested in science, right? They created some natural curiosity within me, and so I always found it more interesting, right? So obviously more interest means that it's naturally easier for me to study, right? It's naturally easier for me to do some of the work, right? So creating some of that natural interest, right? So watching some science videos, you could influence yourself. You could literally just start to watch more science videos, or watch some more physics videos, or watch some more biology videos. All these kind of things, right? If you actually casually watch maths videos, right? Like you watch like 3 Blue 1 Brown, right? If you casually watch that, then naturally you're going to like maths more, right? You're going to enjoy maths more, right? So that could be a way that could help push you in the right direction, right? You become more obsessed with it, right? Maybe this becomes your nerdy topic. Having these goals and genuinely being interested in this topic is probably the main reason why I still got these pretty good grades. Despite the fact that I didn't even know so much about meditation, or I didn't know so much about mental health and all these kind of things that I know about now, right? And so And so I'd say that this is probably one of the most important parts. And so I'd say this is probably one of the most important parts in terms of achieving this kind of success. Actually having the goal, right? So just to summarize that, in order to make it easy for you to study for your A-levels, make sure you do some scheduling so you know what you're doing. Make sure you do some scheduling so you know what you're doing. Remove those distractions so that you don't get distracted when you're doing it. Also to set some goals and make it more interesting for yourself. Make it really important for you, right? Or naturally interesting for you. These three things are the things that I would do to make studying for my A-levels easy. So if you're an A-level or IGCSE student and you struggle a little bit and you found this video quite interesting, have a look at the top link in the description below where I expand a lot on the kind of things that I talk about here, right? A lot of things like that I wish I knew more about in terms of studying for my A-levels. So this will help you study for your A-levels more effectively and without so much of the stress and so much wasted time that I did. So thanks for watching, guys. See you later. Bye-bye.